Hi grade 4 students. Today we are going to begin a 2-class project based on the work of French artists who created a movement called Fauvism. Fauvism is all about strong colors and painterly type qualities to make it look very impressionistic. Fauvism actually comes from the French word that means wild beasts. Our style today that we're going to create is going to be a little bit wild with the types of colors we used and the techniques we're going to use to create our self-portrait. We know from last year that a self-portrait is a picture of ourselves. That's right. So boys and girls, we're going to get started drawing our face. Okay, the first thing you're going to do is write your name, class, and number here on the back. And flip your paper over. At your table, you'll find circle tracers. I want you to put your circle tracer right in the middle, and they might be kind of roughly cut, doesn't matter. Go ahead and trace around the outside of that circle. Today I'm going to be using pen instead of pencil so you can see a little bit better, but I want you to focus on drawing light until you know it's right today. Next thing I want you to do, we are going to go ahead and do a small U underneath. This is going to be the chin of our face. The next thing I want you to do is right in the middle of the circle, draw a light line. This is going to make sure that our eyes are even on our face. So for our eyes, the first thing we want to do is draw 2 rainbows and complete them on the bottom, making a football shape. I'm leaving a pretty even gap between the eyes and the sides of the face. Once I've got those drawn, I can go ahead and erase these lines from the inside of my football. Now our eyes have 3 parts. They've got a white part, they've got a colored part, and they've got a black part. I'm not going to go ahead and draw the white part, but I am going to draw the big colored part, which is called our iris, the smaller dark black part, which is called our pupil, and then boys and girls, I want you to go ahead and draw a line on the top of your eyelids like this, because when our eyes open and close, we have an eyelid right there. Okay, now that I have finished drawing my eyes, I can erase the rest of this line. It has served its purpose. And now to move on to the mouth. The reason I'm not doing the nose next is because I'm going to draw the mouth just in a correct place so that I know how big to make the nose after that. At the bottom of your circle here, this is where your mouth line is actually going to be. So draw a squished M for the top lip. Or if you're a boy, you may want to just kind of make it a little more flat. I'll go ahead and do a boy for this demonstration. And your bottom lip. Maybe a smile. Okay, now that you've drawn your mouth, you can erase the side of your circle at the bottom here that connects this part. All right, last facial feature, major facial feature we need to do is our nose. I like to do just a J with a little squiggle at the bottom. If you're fancy, you may want to do a nostril. And let's do our eyebrows next. Eyebrows up at the top. Maybe make them a little bit bushy. Cool. Okay, boys and girls, the next thing I want us to do is actually draw our ears. Our ears are going to start where that line was and come all the way down to the bottom of where our nose is. Draw the inside there. I can draw them a little bit closer in on the face because the circle of the tracer may be a little bit wide for how our shape of our face actually is. Now, the very last thing that we need to draw for our face features is our hair. And your circle tracer, I kind of want you to make it disappear by your hair. That's what I mean by that is I want your hair to come below the circle line And then I also want it to come above the circle line. So if your hair was in real life, it would cover up this circle. The circle represents the top of your skull. So we have our hair that comes above and below that. Make sure your hair comes all the way down to your ears for both boys and girls. All right, so we have drawn the simple features of our face, but now the last thing we need to do is just draw the neck. Your neck comes down off of your face and swoops towards the edge corners. We actually want our shoulders to come all the way to these corners. We don't want to make our shoulders look too skinny. And give yourself a t-shirt. You may want to give yourself your school uniform, maybe give yourself some buttons and a collar. That is up to you. So we have drawn the basics of our self-portrait, and the next thing that we are going to do is begin with coloring in our face. Now we are going to do that with a specific technique and material. We're going to be using soft pastels. They come in these boxes. Please make sure that when you are finished with your soft pastels that they look exactly the same way as when you open your box. And then the other material that we're going to be using is called cornstarch. We have cornstarch mixed with water. And let me show you a little bit about how that's going to go. So for my face, I'm going to spread some of that chalk pastel. And boys and girls, because we're doing a Fauvistic style, we actually don't want it to look so realistic. But I will give you a tip. For your face, try to only use either warm colors or cool colors. The reason is because in this next step, you'll see that the colors will begin mixing together. Some of you may know through experience that when you mix together warm colors and cool colors, you end up with brown. We may not want that color on our face. I don't need to press so hard with my chalk pastels, just a really light coat. Not only that, but you can work in small patches too. I'm kind of putting some color in different places as I go. So I've covered mostly everything. You don't have to cover things perfectly because the next step is where you're going to smooth out your colors. In your tray, if you dip your finger in, I want you to rub your finger around. You're going to start to feel a sliminess to the cornstarch. That cornstarch is going to help the colors move around on your paper. So taking your finger, you are going to rub the color into your paper and around. When you start to feel your finger not sliding anymore, then it's time for you to dip and get more of our cornstarch mixture, blending those colors around in your face. Use your finger precisely to make sure that your color doesn't get into places you don't want it to be. You'll notice too that as I'm dipping my finger into the cornstarch mixture, that some of the chalk pastel is staying with the cornstarch. The reason that I've given you a flower palette is so that as you're working, you are able to keep some of your colors a little bit more clean by only dipping into a cornstarch mixture that you know is going to be safe for the colors you're using. So I'm going to keep working around here. And my orange is overtaking my yellow. That's okay. Okay, now that I'm done with this color, I can take some tissue, dry my finger off, and we can move on to the next things. You may want to do your neck in some different colors or your hair in cooler colors. That is up to you. Your goal today is to get as much of your face, hair, and t-shirt done as possible. We are not going to work on the background yet today. If you don't get to the chalk pastel today, that's totally fine as well. Okay, boys and girls, let's head to our desks and you can get started.